I love shooting in the studio. If you follow my work on Instagram, you can see I love shooting in the studio. That doesn't mean I always like shooting in the studio, and my first time was terrible. I was terrified of all the lights and everything that's going on, and I didn't know what to do or how to set up the background and all this other stuff. It was traumatic as ever. It was a thing. Luckily enough, I had help with the first time in studio, so I figured with this video, I'd give you a few tips to go along with your first time in the studio. I've said studio about 20 times now. Did you count it? I got a few tips to help you with the nervousness or to make sure that you understand it's not so scary your first time in studio. Here's a few tips to get you through your first studio shoot. Maybe it'll help you the same way it helped me. Roll the intro. Photog family and good people of Earth, I am Charles of CJ Images, and yes, I got a haircut. See? I didn't brush, but never mind. For those of you who don't know, I'm an editorial lifestyle photographer, which means I shoot a lot of my stuff in studio. And I remember my first time. It was not sunshine and daisies, that's for sure. So I figured I'd give you a video to help you along with your first studio shoot. That way it's not so mysterious and scary when you get in there, because there's lights and there's models and backgrounds and triggers and flashes and all this other stuff, and it's just like, where does it end? But hold on, take a second. It's not that bad. I promise you, it's not that bad. We got 5 tips to help you through this thing, so let's begin. Tip number 1 is take your time. I completely understand. You've booked this studio for an hour or 2 hours or whatever the case may be. Now you have to worry about lighting and posing and backgrounds and triggers and receivers, flashes and cameras and what lens to use, and take a second, breathe, relax. As a matter of fact, let's take a second and breathe and relax together. Come on, breathe with me. Being that it's your first time in the studio, I completely understand if you're overwhelmed by all of the things that's in there and you don't know where to start. Take a second and relax. Just calm down and chill. You're in control of the shoot in the studio as far as lighting and everything goes, so just relax. You got this. I promise you, you got this. Tip number 2 is to start simple. Now I know, you're on Instagram and you're seeing all of these great photographers post these amazing pictures and they're in studio and you kind of want to replicate this idea that you saw, and I get it, I understand, trust me. I still look to other photographers for inspiration myself. Their work is amazing, but I know I can't do them myself just yet. If it's your first time in the studio and you're trying to get this thing right, or you want to do a good job, or you just want to try it out, try something simple. Not to say your photos have to be boring or anything like that. What I'm saying is try something that you think you can pull off. Try a simple headshot, a simple beauty shot with a white background or something, just to see if you figured out this lighting thing. Because lighting is the most important part of photography, period. Doesn't matter if you shoot landscapes or you shoot portraits or whatever the case may be. You got to get the lighting right first. As a matter of fact, I think I should make a video about that. What do you think? We should do? Studios offer a lot of different light options and modifiers and all this other stuff. So what you want to do is you want to start with something you might know first, or something that isn't so complicated. You don't want to shoot your model in an underwater scene with a giant fish tank and 17 lights to light the whole thing, and then a strobe on the outside with a water box for your camera and all this other stuff. This is your first time in studio, so we're not doing the underwater stuff yet. We'll get there. But hold on. Just relax. Tip number 3 is to set your exposure. I don't know why I have my hand like this. It's just stuck here. Number 3 is to set your exposure. So what do I mean by set your exposure? Well, I'm glad you asked. You want to set your camera settings so that when you take a photo with no external lights on, your photo is a black frame. This way you know that none of the extra lights in the studio, whether it be the actual building lights or whatever the case may be, is interrupting the shot. So what I normally do if I'm shooting a beauty portrait or something like that, I'll set my exposure before I set up the lighting. That way I know what I want to do, how I want it to look, and what lights to play with at what power outage I want them to be. If my camera and the settings are already set up before I use any lights, then I know the photo that I should get when I start introducing light. In my studio sessions, if I'm shooting something like a beauty portrait or something like that, I usually shoot with a really high f-stop because I don't want to miss focus and I want a lot in focus. So it'll be somewhere around f8 or f9 or something like that. My ISO stays at 100 because I don't want much noise in my photo. I want them to come out crisp and clean. And my camera that I'm using doesn't handle noise very well, so I want to make sure that that's not an issue. Afterwards, I have my shutter speed, which I can't crank up too high because certain lights don't shoot in what's called high speed sync. We'll talk about that in another video. So it's usually around somewhere between 1/120th of a second or 1/160th of a second, somewhere along those lines. Now, without a receiver or a trigger on the flashes, if I take a photo with no extra flash, I'll get a black frame. This way I know that everything that comes out of my camera from this point on is my fault. I say my fault like it's a bad thing. It's really my choice or my option. Is it choice or option? I have no idea. We're moving on. Once I start introducing lights, now I know where to put them and what to do next or what look I want to go for and all these other things. But everything that happens now is my will. Like it's my choice. It's my option. How I want to do it is how I want to do it. And the same goes for you. Speaking of which, tip number 4 is to build your lights. I don't know why, that's the Denzel Washington finger. Build your lights. That's right, you gotta build your lights. I'm sorry, Denzel, I apologize. That was the worst impression ever. Just building your lights basically means starting off with one light and adding on if needed. Let's take this picture for example. Now in this specific photo, I had 4 different women, which is no problem, it's fine, it's cool. But I had a big enough modifier to cover everybody with one light, which I placed directly overhead of them. That was my first light. That's the light that's lighting them. Behind them, I had 2 strip boxes just out of the frame of camera to light the background. I did all of this because I wanted to control the look that came from the photo, and this was the result. First, I lit the subjects. Next, I lit the background, and if needed, I would have lit from underneath them to remove shadows from the eyes and under the neck. But I like the way this looked. And because I like the way it looked, this is the photo that I kept. But remember, I lit the subjects first. I built my lights one by one to make sure that I knew what was going on and everything worked for the photo. I didn't turn them all on at one time and just took a photo and the flashes went off and everything looked super blown out or wasn't enough light. Building the shot one light at a time made me understand that what was happening was on purpose and it was right every single time that I took a photo. And tip number 5 is to try whatever comes in mind. Once you understand the concept of setting your exposure and building your lights to set the scene that you want, have fun. You're in the studio, you're here to create, and it's your shoot, so do whatever comes to mind. I've done plenty of things in the studio that ended up being my favorite types of look. I found low-key photography by accident. I put no lights on the background and I put a light on me and I didn't point it towards the background, just right over top of my face. And when I took the photo, I fell in love. You can get any look you like just by trying stuff, and you're already here, so try it. Have fun. Photography is supposed to be fun. If you're just doing it, you might be missing out on it. So just have some fun. That's what I'm here for. And those are my tips for your first time in studio. Hopefully it goes pretty well, and tag me in some photos if you want. As a matter of fact, here's my Instagram. It's right here. How you do that when you put the text like in the, is it, am I doing the text right? I'm doing it right? Okay. So my Instagram is right here. Follow me on Instagram. Say hi, say something. And when you post something, if it's your first time in studio, let me know. Can I put my hands down now, please? Or are you gonna leave it? I could put my hands down the whole time, you never told me? Some friend you are. If you have any more tips for somebody's first time in the studio, leave them in the comments below. We'll read them and go over them as a collective, as a community, if you will. I love that word, as a community. But that's pretty much it, guys. I'm gonna go play in my computer and fix some photos that I took a long time ago. So stay safe. Take out your camera, keep on clicking. Bye. Blueface, baby. Sorry. I'm only doing that to test the audio. Blueface, baby. That sounds so annoying to say. So, it's your very first. It's your very first. I've said that like 20 times. I got the white dad hat on. Do you see how man, I still got an Android. It's still an Android. It's still Android. Whatever. I wish I was sponsored. Not yet. Everybody on YouTube that's a photographer has either sponsored by Squarespace or Skillshare. What do I got to do to get on that train? Because I'm waiting for that. Once I get on the Skillshare, once I'm sponsored by Skillshare or Squarespace, I know I made it. This video is brought to you in part by. No, I'm just kidding. Should I wear these necklaces too? I don't wear necklaces like this. I'm doing too much. I didn't have it on the beginning. Hush your mouth. Okay.